Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I am Falakzeeb Khan, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with Leaders interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formulas for many. And this is what we aim for with these sessions by making them a gathering of industry stalwarts and a knowledge-sharing community. We have one such industry giant on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Ms. Sadhana Somasekhar. Hello, welcome, Ms. Somasekhar. We are glad to have you here today with us on FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here too. Thanks, Falak.
Thank you so much. So let me give you a quick brief about Ms. Sadhana Somasekhar. She is a distinguished figure, seamlessly blending the roles of an accredited leadership coach and corporate sculptor. With an illustrious career spanning nearly 3 decades in the IT and ITES industry, her journey has been nothing short of remarkable. As the CEO and Managing Director of Platinum Infosystems, she has navigated through various pivotal roles, showcasing her expertise from Vice President to the boardroom. Her impact is not confined to corporate corridors. As part of Forbes USA, Coaches Council and President Select in Leaders Excellence at Harvard Square, her influence transcends global boardrooms. So, Ms. Somasekhar, to begin with, could you let our viewers know in brief about your career journey so far?
Okay, so my journey has been rather, I would say, colorful and varied. I started in the paramedical field. I was a microbiologist who specialized in clinical pathology. And from there, I'm going to make it very short because the journey has a lot of different permutations and combinations. So my journey brought me, because both my parents were scientists, they decided that we were in Bombay, Mumbai at that time. So we decided, my father decided that he wanted to, call it a day in terms of the life in Mumbai, and we moved to Pondicherry. So there, my mother was somebody who was instrumental in saying, listen, when you're with your parents, why don't you augment yourself even more? Because I was doing pro bono service for the Sri Aurobindo Ashram nursing home. So I decided that if I was to set up a laboratory completely automated, like Just Look in Mumbai, I wanted to understand a little more about the technology side. One of my electives was computer science, and I was very interested in it. So instead of doing a short, maybe 6 months course, I did another post-graduation in systems analysts. So I came out, I graduated as a systems analyst, and that turned the trajectory of my journey. Now, interestingly, it was much later that I realized that the journey was not actually completely without, dots being connected. Because in my transition into IT, there too, I found that if I recall, the success that I had as a medical pathologist was not so much the quality of my, what I did in the laboratory, but there was a relationship with patients which was undeniable. In fact, I would like to take the night shift and I would walk around. I didn't even be in the wards, but I used to forever leave the lab and I would be in the wards talking to the patients, especially the older patients. The same journey continued in IT, where initially I started as a systems analyst, but I seem to have been bringing in business and prospects to the organization. So they said, look, she seems to be doing a fantastic job in business development. Why don't we use her there? Now, again, long story short, if I were to analyze looking back, I think I was not what they thought, the typical business development salesperson, because I couldn't sell anything if I didn't believe in it. My passion had to be engaged. And again, the common denominator of my success there, and again, I'm looking back when I'm talking, I'm literally looking back at the sadhana of then, not me as I am now. I think the success of that person was the relationships, and I don't let go of relationships. It doesn't matter if the organization needs me to do something. If I didn't believe in the value of that service or the product and the relevance to my customer, I wouldn't be able to do it. So for me, it has been the human quotient. And later on, like I mentioned, I saw success in my career. But being in those days, I started my IT career in 1992. And at that point, there were very few women, you could say, especially in the front line doing business development. And I grew very fast. I was, vice president for international operation. I had a very diverse leadership, which again, I was thankful for much later in my career in terms of the value. The CEO was French, the COO was Indian American, and the CTO was German. So I had the diverse exposure to different, geographies and in terms of attitude. Now, later on, I decided that I needed to verify for myself whether what I experienced, quote unquote, a success, whether it was about being in the right place at the right time, or was it about me? Did I bring in some value to the table, which was uniquely my value addition? For that purpose, in 2003, I set up my own company. And I set up my company because my early organization, I had a long stint with them, 13 years. That organization changed hands and it didn't feel like the same company anymore. So I thought, hey, this is a good time for me to check out whether being in the right place, right time, or was it because of sadhana? So I registered my organization, Platinum Infosystems, in 2002. Now, Platinum Infosystems was set up for the IT industry, but I had very good advice and therefore, we registered it for a whole suite of services. And I went to the United States under that banner. I was CMO for an American company in the heart of Los Angeles in Beverly Hills itself. It was a fixed term relationship where I had to set up their, you could say, their structure in terms of from the client facing, market facing aspect. And then I returned to India because I had two small children. And I keep telling this to other people too, women, other people, I say, and I don't mean just women, that if you choose an area where you want to create a mark, then there are going to be tough decisions to take. You cannot always have your cake and eat it. So that was one tough decision that I had to take, whether, leave my children. And I had a very supportive husband. So I left them behind for a few months, and some of the younger fellow was just a few months old. And I went to the United States. When I came back, Platinum was actually empaneled by IBM. I was actually fully trained by IBM. They wanted me to join them when I exited from my previous company. But I wanted to check out, right, this thing, what was the element that I bought in versus just the brand that you carry. Most of us are known by the comma after our name. If you look at, there are so many CEOs. I tell all my coaches this. We have fantastic CEOs. I mean, you name organizations. There are, in every organization is led, successful organization is led by a powerful leadership team. But how many CEOs do we remember? Yeah, we remember a few of them. But what about the rest? Were they not good? No, they were fantastic. So I have somehow, this is my opinion, that most of us get to be known by the comma after our name. Your brand is when you are known by who you are. Doesn't matter what comes after. It could be IBM, it could be XYZ. But if you are known by you, that lasts. It's a relationship that you have with yourself. So for that purpose and just that purpose, I did not join any other organization. I set up my own organization, and very generously, and also because of past association and relationship, IBM empaneled me as their partner. Normally, they don't do that unless you have 3 years balance sheet, successful funding, and your setup. I was a startup to the core, literally a 2-person company. So first year of my engagement as a partner of IBM, my company Platinum, we became the IBM Business. We got the award for IBM Business Partner of the Year for Enterprise Systems, which is a massive award because it was not for PCs, it was for enterprise systems. But I had this epiphany, you could say an aha moment, when I went on stage and when I was getting off stage. I realized I had too much of corporate blood in me to actually stay satisfied as an entrepreneur. I needed to see a front office, a back office, a team. And here I was, a 2-person company. So I think I got the answer that it was not just because of right time, right place. It was because of perseverance, determination, and passion that I could make it. You don't have to be a large organization if you've set your mind on something. You go after it, you bring your unique value proposition, and we see it, and then rest is history. So from there, there was an organization which approached me. I had a relationship with that company when I was in the US because I had identified them as an offshore development partner. They were much older, but they had not grown. They were hardly 300 employees, some 8.5 crores, but they had US operations, they had India. They asked me whether I would join them. Now, I was the CEO of my own company. Why should I, if I wanted to join, I would, as an employee, I would rather join IBM. Why should I join a small company, which was 8 crores, whereas I was already around 5 crores in the first year? Why should I join them? So I said, look, is there a logic? They said, no, you come in on board as an equal investor director. We have shares. We've not been able to announce any dividends. I'm sure people would like to sell their shares. So again, long story short, I ended up becoming one of the board as an equal stakeholder, investor, and executive director. So I was the joint managing director of the company. We had a very illustrious board. The organization grew. And just before COVID in 2019, we were acquired by a Japanese multinational company. We wanted to get acquired because we were ready for it, for our next level of inorganic growth. Now, my journey in that, in 2010, I felt my passion waning. I was responsible for P&L. That was my role. I was never in the back office. It was always frontline business. I was president for our US office. I was the head for all our international business. And like I said, for me, if passion is not engaged, I don't bring out the best of myself. So at that crossroad, they say the universe listens. So at a NASSCOM conference, I met somebody called an executive coach. In 2010, executive coaching was not so, popular or well-known. And I found out that executive coaches who work with senior management, CXO level, it's a journey of good to great. It's not a performance improvement plan. It's not a corrective action. It's an evolutionary journey. So I said, I have to try this. I self-invested. I decided not to go via the company. I mean, I could have approached the organization to engage a coach, but I said, no, I need to do this for myself.
Perfect.
Okay. So I identified, I was, again, very lucky that I got a fantastic coach. Unfortunately, he's no more. And the end of the journey gave me those answers, why my passion was waning, or why did I feel less useful, so to speak. And it also brought a realization. What I mentioned is those dots connecting from my paramedical line to the IT line as a technical person, and then into my business development role and to leadership and management. There was a common, you could say, string that was connecting through this diverse growth phase. And that was people and relationships. Even in my leadership role, in my capacity, I was not just pushing for numbers or, focusing on what the organization required at the boardroom level, dividends and investment returns, whatever we learn in the independent directors program, that it's all about stakeholders. The human element is what I think differentiated me from the normal, you could say, hard driving businesswoman. Yes, the world outside would have seen me like that, but it was, I knew for a fact, especially after my coaching journey, that this was the thing. People were the common denominator for me. So I decided, I think this is where I was being led. I should become a coach. I have now harnessed experience. I have realized about myself, areas which I needed to change. And I remember, and I share this with my coachees, that at that point I felt I wish I had met a coach 2 years before or 3 years before. Maybe my journey and the people around me would have experienced a much higher, better form of myself. So anyway, nothing is too late. I decided to become a coach. At that time, my alma mater, Coaching Foundation India, they said, listen, Sadhana, I think you should wait for some time. You're at the peak of your career. There is no limelight for a coach. You don't get recognition and awards like you may have, if you've seen my LinkedIn, there's quite a string of awards. And as a coach, you will not get any of that. Usually people become coaches after retirement. So I said, no, I didn't have to think more. I'm done with that phase. I would like to be a coach, and especially because I felt I would be relevant to my coachee's life. I'm not somebody who's, there's nothing wrong about becoming a coach after retirement, but at least when they talk about certain things, we meet at conferences, we're walking and talking and living the same phase of life, so to speak. I wanted to be relevant in that sense. So long story short, again, I informed my board that I was going to go through the certification. It takes a year. It's a postgraduate diploma. You need to be a CXO to be a CXO coach. That was the rule then. And I graduated as a coach. I continued in my functional executive capacity. But again, I got some answers, I told you, after my coaching journey. One answer was the reason I was feeling a little disconnected was my team had grown up. They didn't need me the way they needed me earlier. I was a figurehead, a motivational person, but I could be that even without being the joint managing director. So I went back to the board and I informed them that, look, I would like to be a full-time coach. My people are completely well equipped and experienced to take over. And at the boardroom, it makes sense. On the P&L, one executive director less makes. So with a little bit of the dialogue and discussion, I exited in my functional capacity. I continued as a board member and as an investor. In 2018, I didn't even want to attend the boardroom at that time because my interest in talking about the company's growth, people, apart. And I always believe the boardroom is one of the most honest places in an organization. I may sound controversial, but even diversity and inclusion, CSR, name it, employee engagement, they have to make sense to the balance sheet. If they don't make sense, it doesn't matter how good the philosophy is. Which there's nothing wrong in it because businesses are for profit. Businesses are to return stakeholder investment. But it was not a conversation which I could dispassionately be involved in because it was my company, and still I could not talk without involving the people quotient. So I told them that I'll continue as an investor, but I wanted to exit or step down as a director. That's when the chairman, who was an investor chairman, he's one of the who's who in India. I learned a lot under him. In fact, your Directors Institute, going through the study material, I think I could relate because of the tutelage I received under that chairman. I'm not mentioning his name here because he may not be too happy to be talked about. So anyway, he decided that they've also traveled almost 20 years with the company. Let's look for a good exit. And that's how we got acquired. So that is my professional, in terms of quote unquote, my functional business journey. But all through from 2011, I've been engaged as an executive coach. I don't market myself or sell. It's always bespoke. It's again relationships when people find out, oh, you're not doing this anymore. What do you do? And then, somebody says, can you coach someone? And then it becomes a ripple effect. And I have a full calendar every year. Again, I feel very happy and I'm proud of it that I don't have to solicit what I do. I do it as a passion. The business is secondary to it. There is a business aspect because I do raise an invoice, but the genesis, the beginning of it is trust and confidence that the engagement that they have with me and my coach and the coach-coachee relationship and the organization which is sponsoring us will provide that needle movement which they want to see. So this is my professional story, not so much of a nutshell. It's a bit of a big nutshell. I have two sons and my husband and sons are all in the United States. I decided I will not leave this country. I travel, but my base has to be India. So I'm that, you could say, a strange person who has decided not to uproot herself, but to be stationed in India, even with the rest of the household somewhere else.
Wow, that's indeed a very interesting and a wonderful career journey so far. And as you mentioned, it is if you choose work as a passion, so that's very much important. You enjoy what you do, so that's where you just keep growing.
Yes.
Otherwise, just doing it for the sake of doing.
For livelihood, yeah, it's not just livelihood.
That's really very great. So moving ahead, what leadership philosophies have guided you throughout your career, especially during your roles as CEO and Managing Director?
Very simply put, what has guided me is audience centricity and alignment to people. how, first of all, being authentic myself, because authentic both sides, because there may be some aspects of you which are not so good, but being able to acknowledge that and being to be able to work with people. The value has been people focused. What can I do to leverage somebody's competency, to understand somebody who's not so competent and work around that? Initially, it was not a conscious, you could say, value system, but it's, I have to talk about myself today, the avatar that I am in. I'm a coach. I learn from my coaches. Every engagement is a new learning. So when I look back, I realize that what is the value I bought in? I bought in the value of passion, a very, very clear belief system that if you believe in something, you can drive it, and that you need to work with people to achieve not just your dreams, but the cumulative dreams. So I don't know whether I've answered your question, but drive, passion, and people engagement.
Yes, definitely. So moving ahead, like you have received numerous awards, including Most Talented Coaching Leaders and Woman Super Achiever. How did you come about achieving them, and how do these accolades motivate you?
Okay, before I touch those two, the first I received, apart from the ones which the company gave, I'm talking about the external award, was the Dun & Bradstreet Award. I will never forget this because it came out of the blue. There was no nomination form, nothing. Dun & Bradstreet, as you know, they are market research, and they probably did their research. And that is an award I think I value, not because of anything else, but because of the way it came to me out of the blue. No nomination, no self-nomination, no company sending a nomination, pure play data and analytics. Whatever they did in market research, we got a mail suddenly from them saying that among the emerging companies of India, maybe, to be absolutely honest, I was in the right place, right time, because at that point, 2000, I think 4, there were not too many women in the boardroom. Even today, that needle hasn't moved much. Even today, globally, it's about 15%. But in India, and I was somebody more tangible, right? I'm not an Indra Nui who you'll see very far away. I'm somebody next door, so to speak. So if I could make it, maybe that's why. But I'm not going to take away any of my own credit there. But I did get that award. So that was one. The rest of it came through the industry recognition. I would get an email saying that we would like you but I do get a n number of mails saying there's a small fee associated. If there is a fee associated, it doesn't matter. I don't even get my company or myself to nominate myself for it. So this has become a business, getting awards and recognition. But I do tell my coaches, again, I'm coming back to my current avatar, that your branding doesn't start when you have become something. The journey has to follow you. You have to become your brand from the time you're out there. So whether you attend a conference as an audience or as a speaker, do that more often. Then you get heard, you get seen. So I think all my other recognitions came through that process of being heard, being invited to speak. Then, somebody says, oh, this person speaks, this person is from this company. Then if there is an award related, you get proposed for it. But I think the biggest reward is when people come back to you and say, you made a difference.
Right, that's there. And congratulations to you for the same.
Thank you.
So we want to know, like, how and when did you develop an interest in ESG and corporate governance?
So again, I can't put an exact timeline, but ESG and corporate governance is a part of a boardroom. It's a part of the organizational culture. Okay, and when the world itself, you could say, that was moving towards sensitivity in terms of global warming, diversity and inclusion, POSH, you name it. I was a chairperson for 3 years of NASSCOM's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. So on the job, you could say that these two areas, ESG and corporate governance, become de facto, you could say, compliance. I mean, you need to know it. You cannot have a business. You cannot have a growing organization or any kind of structure without that consciousness. So I think that was there right from the beginning, but it became more acute with even administrative, government conditions where you need to put aside X amount, 2% of your, of your earnings towards CSR. When those statutory compliances came in, we became more conscious. But for me, I think the ESG part, the part of corporate governance was a part of the way we worked. It just became more formal later on. And again, I'm going through the ESG and the Digital Director certification. I've not completed it through the Directors Institute. So I think I would be able to talk more about this from a more structured manner, because what I know now is experiential. But I think in terms of, just like when I became an independent director, I've spent 15 years in the boardroom, but I did not bother to figure out which are the compulsory committees, which are the statutory committees, which are this, which section, subsection. But that also gives you a tremendous amount of confidence when you are sitting as an independent director, because no longer you're an investor, you're sitting there to provide a value addition of objectivity. So I think I will have more to say about ESG and governance, corporate governance, once I go through the formal learning through Directors Institute.
So our next question is also on the similar lines, like as an ESG and corporate governance expert, what values do you bring to the table?
So here I have to gently disagree with you. I am no expert. It's like somebody who's worked with a doctor does not become a doctor till you graduate as a doctor. So I have been a functional person in ESG and corporate governance, like I mentioned earlier, because of my role as part of the board and as an ED and stuff. But I will hopefully bring in that knowledge, that structured, informed knowledge part, the academic side of expertise, once I complete my certification in the next few months. So right now, what I bring in as value is my experience sitting on it with industry bodies, being associated with industry bodies, and associated with also running and growing my own organizations. But the other part of it, the expert word which you used, will come in a few months.
That's great. All the best to you for the same.
Thank you. Thank you.
So when we talk about technology, what are some of the most remarkable changes you have seen in your field with changes in technology? And what changes do you expect to see with the advent of IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, big data, and Web 3.0?
So you're asking me a question. It's like asking an Arab, what is the meaning of sand around you? Okay, so this has been the industry I've been growing, stewing, and living in. And what we are doing right now, we take it for granted. You and I are having a conversation in real time. Okay, so this is something which we've taken for granted. But I think, whoever is going to, listen to our interview or be participating in this process, I think all of us are in the same boat where we understand that technology is as essential, as important to us as the food we eat. I won't say is as important as the air we breathe, but as the food we eat. We can take during the pandemic. I, as a coach, never believed I could do virtual sessions because I felt coaching is human. I have to sit opposite my coachee. It's just touchy-feely. I need to sense the breadth of my coaching. But pandemic came and it reversed. Today, I wouldn't be comfortable having this video interview. All my interviews have been in person all throughout my 28 years of career, believe it or not. Because I am essentially a human-to-human person. Not even now, I'm talking to a device. I know it's you on the other end, but I never thought this comfort could be developed. Now, I could coach my coachees because of technology enabling so many things like, Zoom and video conferencing, WhatsApp, fantastic about WhatsApp, having WhatsApp anywhere around the world, doesn't matter whether you have WebEx or Zoom, you can still connect to somebody and there's no expense involved. So the ease of life, even today, I continue a lot of my COVID behavior. I don't bother to step out to go and, buy things anymore. It's still completely online. And the interaction there, I feel sometimes is better than a human-to-human interaction. For example, I'm going to go being very human now, very ordinary now. Let's say that you procure something from Big Basket. You don't like it, or you find out that something is not all right after they've delivered it. You can still call them and they, take care of it. They return it or they refund. Can you do that with your shopkeeper? Can you go back the next day and say, hey, listen, you gave me half the apples were rotten?
That's true.
It's not going to happen. So technology has allowed a lot of, you could say, the overheads to be, gotten rid of. And when overheads go off, there is so much that you can give your customer back. The shopkeeper can't do it because he has to pay electricity and his shop and his people around him. But when you're dealing with Amazon or Big Basket, of course they have overheads, but they don't have those kind of fixed overheads which the shop, larger shops and malls and showrooms have. So they can pass on that benefit in the quality of service. So that's a very, at the home level, I would say, technology part. But where I think technology is going to take us is to areas of experience which I think unimaginable. It's going to be like science fiction. Maybe we won't even need cars and aircrafts or trains. Maybe we will travel by train or air or cars just for having a joyride. I see that one day when we have teleportation, where just like Star Trek, you can teleport yourself by informing, keying in where you want to go. We already have Microsoft tested, and this is like 4 years old. They had their HoloLens. It is impossible to figure out who's wearing the lens and who's the real person. It looks so real. There is a gentleman talking to his 4-year-old daughter, and she's real, and he is actually on the holo side. But to her father's, she can't touch him, but it's like he's there in the room with her. There's a 3D, 4D quality to the lens. So we're there already. Where we are not yet there is molecular transportation. That is exactly the molecular structure moved without damage from one place to another. So that is going to be there. Then we have to thank Elon Musk. Maybe our planet, which we are destroying, even with all the ESG consciousness, it's still not up to the mark, because unless it goes into the very fabric of every home, just companies doing their bit is not enough. So if we don't destroy it, then we can be happy. But if we do, I think some part of the human race will get transported to Mars or somewhere so that we're not wiped out as the prehistoric animals were wiped out. So there's a lot happening in technology. I would say the sky is the limit, or rather the universe is the limit.
Yes, that's completely true, I must say. So as you know, we are building a community of industry magnates. The move is meant for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts. So what are your thoughts about this initiative taken about by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Hemal Mehta, and the whole World Development Corporation team?
So if I have to be very candid, okay, to start with, such an initiative can never be bad. It can never go wrong. It's good. But the industry has many such things coming, so we have to be a little sensitive to that. For example, you take NASSCOM, but they are restricting largely to the ITES community. But if you look at their large conferences, their flagship NASSCOM, India Leadership Technology Conference and stuff, where you have companies coming from all over the world to attend it, it has stopped being just tech. Yes, it is tech sponsored, but the speakers are talking about life, because if you look at Tesla was a car company, but now it's gone. Is there a difference? They're not just making cars. They're into technology, artificial intelligence. Take Amazon. They used to sell books. So now the demarcation between what is IT, what is non-IT has become very, it's faded out. It's become hazy. So industry bringing together stalwarts, bringing to the experts is always good, but there's a lot of it going on. I'm actually honorary member. I was invited to be a part of the technology leadership team by Della Leaders, DLC. So they have something, and I know it's an uphill task to create a membership and stuff, but I like where Directors Institute is, because you've carved out a niche in terms of certain areas, like, independent director. None of them are focusing on those statutory things, which also have a holistic impact. That is, to be an independent director is not just knowing the rules. It's allowing an organization to do the right thing, the right way, to grow, to create, you could say, plentifulness for your country. So there is that overriding ethos when you become an independent director. Apart from that, you've also introduced, which is not yet statutory by NCA, but you've introduced the digital director program, the ESG program. So this will bring in informed, structured knowledge to people, even people like me who've been in the, yes, I am qualified digitally. I've studied, I've got a postgraduate honors in systems analyst, but digital director is not about writing code or knowing analytics. It's about how does this play a role at a higher level, not just for your company, but for the world, for your society, for your country. So this is a unique place that you've had. And in my experience, I don't, at least the industries that I work with, the groups that I work with, none of them are focusing on this. So way to go. Because you've got even people like, I'm maybe not the biggest clog of the wheel, but to get involved and to invest time and, study to get involved in this. So I think it has a good role to play and a lot more to contribute. I want to add something here, which I think is maybe it's pertinent even for you to know it. The reason I selected to get certified as an independent director is to give back to our country. And I don't want to sound as though I'm larger than life, philanthropy. No. As a coach, the journey has been that, touching lives of people. My relationship with my coaches do not end in the 8-10 months of the engagement. So it's for life till I kick the bucket. I tell all my coaches that. And there is no paperwork or financial consideration involved in that part of the journey. But I felt, what next? What have I done for the country? I even tried whether I could go into territorial service, but they have a cutoff age limit of 42. I mean, where you can join the armed forces. So I thought in this way, because this is something which the government of India stipulates. Maybe this way, if I invest time and study, if there's an opportunity, I may be able to pay forward all the learnings that I've had dealing with people as well as the corporate world. So thank you, Directors Institute.
Thank you for these really very kind words, I must say. So it was fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will inspire future leaders. Thank you so much once again for joining us today on FaceTime with Leaders, Ms. SADHANA Somasekhar. We wish you the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute unquestionably has expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds.
Absolutely.
And all the wonderful teachings and principles that you've shared with us, your wonderful career journey so far, I'm sure like everyone watching this, it is going to help them and grow in their careers as well. So thank you so much for being with us today on FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you, Falak. Thank you for being such an avid listener. And thank you for your questions. All the best to Directors Institute and to the viewers.
Thank you.